Hello guys, welcome to this presentation on academic assignments about critical thinking and critical writing. My name is Richard Egelstaff. I'm the discipline leader for project management here at CQ University, and what I'll be doing is I'll be talking for the next maybe 10 minutes or so about what you need to do in order to get good marks in your assignments. The topics that I'll be covering will be focused around the Australian Qualification Framework, otherwise known as the AQF. I'll be explaining the AQF in terms of bodies of knowledge. In other words, these are the basic foundations of what you need to know in order to be able to go and work in a particular discipline at a certain level within the AQF. Bodies of knowledge are built around vocabularies. So in our case, in project management, we have a certain vocabulary. The use of that vocabulary, the understanding of that vocabulary is particularly important. And I'll also talk a little bit about that. One of the critical factors is that what you've got to be able to do is show that you can think. Cognitive skills, thinking skills, is what university study is all about. So we'll be discussing what's involved in that, and in particular thinking about how to solve complex problems. You'll be confronted with complex problems that require you to be able to look at the body of knowledge, use a vocabulary, and apply certain judgment to be able to go and solve these problems. And that means you need to have this thinking, critical thinking capacity to critically think. I'll also talk about assignments. There are 7 types of assignments that you typically get at a university level. I'll briefly mention those and also how those are graded. I can't give you all the permutations about grading, but I'll give you some general concept that you need to bear in mind when you're trying to go and get good grades. And then finally I'll go into essays. Essays is perhaps the most important, essay writing, the most important skill that you need to acquire. Is one of the 7 types of assignments. So I'll talk about essays, I'll talk about the structure of essays, and provide you with some tips. Now, one thing that I should emphasize is that there is a paper that I've written and posted on the Moodle website about this presentation. I encourage you to go and look at the paper and download that. It's not terribly long, 22 pages or so, and it's got a lot of links, hot links to various other websites in CQU and at other universities, which contains a lot of information that will help you go and get good results in your assignments. Okay, let's look at the Australian Qualification Framework. Now, there's a lot of information in the AQF. I'll just use the word AQF. There's a website, www.aqf.gov.au or aqf.edu.au. I think it's aqf.edu.au. And what it does is it explains on that website the 10 levels within the AQF. So the 10 levels cover from Certificate 1, 2, 3, 4, diplomas, advanced diplomas, degrees, and then graduate certificates, graduate diplomas, masters, and finally doctorates. That's the 10 levels. And at each level, the level is defined in certain ways, in particular around type descriptors. And these type descriptors go and identify the knowledge that you need to have at that particular level. So in our case, we work at an AQF 8 level for the graduate certificate, graduate diploma. So the knowledge that you need to have, the skills that you need to be able to go and apply to that knowledge, and then the application of the knowledge and skills within that particular AQF level. So those are the 3 type descriptors that are important. And what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to demonstrate that you know the body of knowledge, Also, you understand the body of knowledge. You can talk about it. You know the vocabulary. You know the terms. You know the way that the ideas are related together. So in our case, we're doing project management, and we have a project management body of knowledge. This comes from a number of different sources. We'll be studying where those sources are. But you need to know and understand what that is. And if you were doing another discipline, engineering or medicine, or tourism or whatever it happened to be, then you need to know the body of knowledge and understand the body of knowledge associated with that. The next thing we need to do is we need to be able to show that we can think about it. We have cognition around that body of knowledge, that we can think independently, we can understand, and we can explain it, and in particular we can apply that thinking to be able to solve complex problems. Now, what is a complex problem for one person might be a simple problem for someone else, but generally speaking, if someone's professional, if there's a body of knowledge which a number of people understand, then what constitutes a complex problem will be understood by a number of people and recognized as a complex problem. When you solve a complex problem, you need to be able to do it with judgment. So judgment means that you've got to be able to go in, explain how your thinking works, in what way it relates to the body of knowledge, what are the examples that you're using in order to be able to go in, put everything within its complex context. And you've got to be able to communicate that to other people. Some people will be your peers, that they'll understand a lot about what you're talking about, and other people may not be your peers, in which case you need to be able to explain to them how you've come together with that judgment, how you've built it up from the first principles. So that's particularly important, and it's important because you're working at an AQF8 level, and you're going to be assessed that you have the capability of going and doing that. The main thing is, as I say, that you show that you've got the critical thinking capacity to be able to understand this body of knowledge and solve the problems and communicate your judgment to other people. Now, in universities, there are a number of assignments that you need to be able to do. We assess your performance based on the assignment, and in summary, there are 7 assignments type. Firstly, essays. You're probably familiar with writing essays from school. The essays you write at university have a particular structure. They're academic essays, and what I'll do is I'll explain something about that in a moment. Second kind of assignment is reports. Reports have some similarity with essays, but whereas in essays you don't use bullet points, headings, put diagrams, in reports you do that. You put bullet points, you put headings, you put summaries, you put diagrams. But the important difference is that a report really goes and reports something, whereas an essay is an explanation, is an argument around something. Other types of assignments could be quizzes, multiple choice quizzes, fill in the blank quizzes, all kinds of different quizzes that you can be assessed. Exams, I'm sure you're all familiar with exams. Generally speaking, the objective of an exam is to test what you know, what you've absorbed into your head. And normally you don't take any kind of book into an exam. It's just you, a blank sheet of paper, and what's in your head. And that's what the exam is trying to go and test. Presentations. These are oral exercises where the marker has the opportunity not only to hear what you say, but also to go and ask you questions to be able to verify the knowledge that you've got around a particular topic. Sometimes you'll be asked to produce project artifacts. In our case, in project management, you might do a project and you might have to produce a Gantt chart or a budget or a project plan or any other kind of project artifact. These are what we call the artifacts. Usually you won't just produce those artifacts in isolation. You usually collect them together and you'll maybe include them within a report, or you'll make a presentation around them, or you might include them in a portfolio. And so a portfolio is a collection of various artifacts, but also you make a commentary around it. So you may make that commentary within a journal, which you complete on a regular basis, like a diary, and then assemble everything together and present a complete portfolio of your thoughts, your observations, and the artifacts that go in and support that. Now, when you present your assignments, they're essentially a way that the marker goes in, marks those assignments. And so to get a pass, what you need to do is you really need to do 8 things based on presenting the assignment in an appropriate way. You need to demonstrate that you understand what you're doing, and you can refer to the various sources. In other words, the textbooks, the papers, the presentation material, tutorials that have been included on the website. But also, in addition, there are certain qualitative criteria that you need to be able to meet. Now, this is to go and get a pass. So you've got to show an ability to synthesize and integrate the material. In other words, you can summarize it, you can bring it together, you can make sense out of it, not just pluck isolated bits out, but you can bring the whole thing together in a coherent manner. You've got to be able to produce some kind of argument which is relevant to the particular topic. The point of an argument is that what you're doing is you're presenting which way a particular solution may be, the advantages, the disadvantages, the pros and the cons. Each argument goes and has a counter argument, why that particular argument is strong and why other particular positions are weak. You've got to be able to demonstrate some degree of critical evaluation. So critical evaluation means that you can break something down into its component parts. You can explain why it's there, what it consists of, what each part is not only consists of, but why it's relevant. An awareness of the application and implication issues. So what is the consequence of this? What will the impact of this be in the real world? What will be the consequence if you argue a particular case? What will the knock-on effect be in the real world? We ideally like you to be able to do things which are excellent. So some aspects of your work are excellent. And have you got a comprehensive grasp of the topic and all the related material? A comprehensive grasp doesn't mean that you need to have the best grasp possible, but do you understand everything that we're talking about, what we've talked about within the course, within the material that you've been presented, not just individual little bits that you've been able to pluck out of the thin air. Now, as I said to you, essays are probably the most important kind of assignment that you get. The reason is that an essay has a certain structure. It gives you the ability to be able to argue a case. And if you want to, you need to apply critical thinking and judgment and cognitive skills, then the essay is the best way of being able to do that. The structure of the essay is that it consists of an introduction, which is 10% of the words, a body, which is 80% of the words, a number of topics, which should be consistent, and then a conclusion, which is 10%. So in other words, if you have an essay of 2,000 words, the introduction would be 200 words, the conclusion 200 words, and then the body would be 1,600 words. And if you had 4 topics, then that 1,600 words would be made up of 4 topics of 400 words each. Now, ideally speaking, this is a structure that you should stick to within your essay. It's important that your topics blend one into the other. In your introduction, you introduce what you're going to talk about, what you're arguing, and what the body is going to consist of that is going to allow you to go and prove that particular argument. The conclusion is the reverse of the introduction, so you should say what you've talked about, why you've brought all of this together, and why you're concluding what you said in the introduction was your argument. Each of the topics is approximately the same size. Each topic should blend one into the other and lead the reader inevitably to your conclusion. And that's particularly important that you go in, apply that structure within your essays. Now, when you write essays, you obviously write in English. You need to be able to write English. If you don't know how to write English, then you're going to have a problem in writing essays. It's not terribly difficult. You don't need to write terribly complicated English. There is a concept of basic English, and basic English consists of understanding a couple of structures within English: verbs and nouns, and adverbs and adjectives, and the structure of sentences. And I talk a little bit about that within the paper that I've got accompanying this presentation. It's important that what you do is you plan your essay, so you plan the structure, you plan what the topics are, you plan how it works together. You write short sentences. Ideally, a sentence should be no longer than 20 words. If you can get your sentences to 10 words, so much the better. But not long sentences. If you write long sentences, then what you're doing is you're making it very difficult for the reader to go and understand what you're saying, also you'll be confusing your own thoughts. It's important that when you write an essay you proofread. 1/3 of the essay should be in the initial writing. 2/3 of the time that you take in writing the essay or in putting the essay together should be in the proofreading. So don't just write the essay and say, thank God that's done, I now can get on with something else. You've got to realize that when you write the essay you need to spend double the time proofreading. So if it takes you 4 hours to write an essay, it's going to take you 8 hours to go and do the proofreading. In other words, the whole exercise over the essay is going to take 12 hours. Don't fall in love with your words. When you do the proofreading, you need to be able to stand back, you need to be able to look at what you said, you need to be able to think about it dispassionately, and if there's any words that don't make sense, if there's any sentences that don't make sense, if there's anything that doesn't flow correctly within the essay, then you've got to go and get rid of it. Don't just say, this sentence is the best sentence I've ever written, and the last thing I'm going to do is go and delete that sentence. The final tip I want to give you is practice. Essay writing is a skill that you get better and better at. The more you practice, the better you will get. I've had many students who have had no formal education since they left school and did apprenticeships, and then have come on the courses, and by following the few tips that I've gone and given them and practicing, then within a short space of time I've had these students produce really excellent essays that has achieved fabulous results. And I've given you some examples of that in the paper. Now, critical thinking and writing critically is actually a relatively simple exercise, and I tried to explain it to you, but it's really based on the rules around the Australian qualification framework, which says you take a body of knowledge. That body of knowledge consists of a vocabulary and the way that the body of knowledge is talked about and thought about. You apply certain cognitive skills to complex problems. You make certain judgments around that body of knowledge, around those complex problems, and you apply critical thinking. And at an AQF8, you're required to be able to demonstrate that you have the capability of being able to do that. We test whether you're able to do that as a consequence of you doing assignments, of which there are 7 types of assignments, the most important one being the essay. The grading that will be applied to your assignments is based on both a quantitative and a qualitative methodology around that grading, but basically is testing your capacity to be able to meet the criteria of the Australian qualification framework. Finally, essays is perhaps the most important skill that you need to be able to develop around assignment writing, academic assignments, and critical thinking and critical writing. Thanks very much for this. I look forward to seeing you on the course.